In this video, I'm going to go through how to take care of applications that have failed during the imaging process and how you can troubleshoot these applications. If we look over at our console, we can see that the image that we just sent out, or the machine that we just imaged, came back, and it came back with an error. Well, the good thing is that if it fails, it will send the log back to the console. So we're going to go ahead and click on the log now and see what the problem is. Right here under error message, you can see that the failure is that it failed to process an application, but that's really just being generic and it's not actually telling us what the real issue is. For that, we need to go deep down into the log file. So let's scroll down and we'll go down to the detailed log, and we're going to scroll to the very bottom of the detailed log. At the very bottom, it'll tell us what the error is. Again, kind of generic. It's basically saying it can't process the application. But all we need to do is go up from there and to see what the problem is. So as we go up, we can see that the problem is going to be right here in the very last application it tried to install. And that was set the time to Central Standard. And it tells us exactly what it tried to call. In this case, it tried to call TZUtil switch S Central Standard Time, and it told us why it failed. So it gives us a return code of 87. Now, I purposely made this error out so it would stop, and I can show you what happens there. If we look on the client computer, and what I've done here on the client computer is I've sent a Control-Alt-Delete to it. I'm going to go ahead and open Task Manager on that computer. And then from here, I'm going to choose More Details, and I am going to run a new task. And this new task I'm going to run is merely just the command line. From the command line, I'm going to open the registry. So I'm just going to type in regedit and hit enter. Now here's a little bit of behind the scenes of how smartImager loads applications. If I go to Local Machine Hive, and in there I choose Software and look for Circs. And under Circs, I see the smartImager Hive, and I'll open that and I'll see Apps. In there I will see Keys. Now, TZUtil, or setting the time zone, was one of the very last things I told it to try to install. And if I look at it, it tells me that it's tried 3 times and then it failed. But from here, it merely references the GUID of that application. But what I can do is I can delete this key right here, and if I do, I can restart the machine and it'll start by directly going to the very next key, which is this one, which is turn off the Windows firewall, and it will continue on. So if I need to troubleshoot and I've come to a application that failed and I need to make sure that I image that computer, I can manually fix the problem here, delete the key that was the problem, have it reboot and continue on. Now, the only reason it did come to a full stop here is I told it that when installing this application, if you come to an error, that I want you to stop completely. Now, if I look back on the server here and I go to that application, so under Components Applications, I'm going to look up the time zone. So let me just look up time, and here's the one that failed, which was set time to Central Standard Time. And basically what I was doing is I was calling the TZUtil utility with a /s switch and then Central Standard Time. Now, what I forgot to do in this case was I forgot to put quotes around Central Standard Time, so it thought that the word Central Standard and Time were all parameters. Of course, none of those are valid, and so that's why it failed. So I'm going to go ahead and quote that and click Save. Now I've corrected the problem on the console end. I just haven't done it on the client end. Now you'll notice that under Required, I told it to halt imaging on repeated failures. Looking at the client side again, it did try it 3 times, it failed 3 times, and that's why it stopped. So what I'm going to do on the client side is I'm going to go ahead and delete this key entirely. So I will press delete there. It'll ask me if you're sure you want to delete that. I'll say yes. And what I will do is I will manually force it to Central Standard Time, so T's a util. And then /s, and then Central Standard Time. And put the end quote and hit enter. And then that should set it. Now that I've manually resolved the situation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to force it to shut down. And once it shuts down, smartImager will reboot. And when it reboots, it's just going to start with the very next application in line. So once again, to fix the issue, what you want to do is you want to fix it on the client, and you can delete the key if you want to, but it'll give you in the log what the exit code is. In this case, it was exit code 87. I knew what exit code 87 meant. If I didn't, I can merely search for it. Use my favorite internet search provider and search for what the exit code problem was. It'll tell me I can fix it then on the console, which is what I did, and then go back to the client, remove it from the client, reboot the client, and the client will continue imaging. I'm going to go ahead and click pause here again, because when this image completes, I definitely want to show you how everything was laid out on the client and how it got there and why it's there. And I want to go through the log file with you as well.